let's get into creating the first Unity project. What is happening here? Windows Update. So I've said already, the Unity handles its installation and project creation through an extra app called the Unity Hub. So after you've installed everything, you'll be greeted with a panel before Unity launches asking you to name the project, select 2D or 3D, or VR or AR, different types of setups, and then pick a location to save the project. So I'm just going to open up Unity Hub right here on my PC. It's going to take its sweet time. Hey, yeah, and then it's going to ask me to sign in to my Unity account. So you will need to create a Unity account. Use any email for this, doesn't have to be your college one. And it's free to create an account with Unity. Good morning. Okay, so after a little bit of verification, I'm in Unity Hub. So from here I can see my different installed versions of Unity. Right now just the one, 2022, 1.31 F1. And I can see my projects. I don't have any projects, so I'm just going to create a new project. I'm going to start in 3D, obviously. We're going to bring our Blender 3D in here. New project, and you can see our standards. 2D, 3D, built-in render pipeline. Universal 2D, 3D sample, and a bunch of other things. 3D for mobile, VR, AR. So these are basically different ways of opening Unity. You'll have a different layout, a different setup, or different camera setup. So for 3D, it'll be set up with a 3D virtual camera, with 2D, a 2D virtual camera, and everything be locked into 2D planes. VR, set up with a VR camera, big system already ready to go. So we're just going to look at 3D for today. 3D built-in render pipeline. And then I need to give my project a name. And then pick a location. definitely want to pick a place that you know. Don't just go with the default, because if you want to migrate this project or bring it somewhere else, you need to know where you saved all of these files and folders. So I've already made a folder called Unity Project 2024. That'll be my folder, and then all of the information will be created in there. And right now you can see the folder is empty. I'm going to say select folder, and once I say create project, we'll see all of those files for the project appear here. Select folder, and then that's it. Just click create. And it will take however many seconds it needs to create. If it's your first time opening Unity, it takes the longest. It has to set everything up and initialize for the first time, so it could be a few minutes. Which is why I'm not waiting till the end of my lecture to make you open Unity. So, there we go. We can see folder is created, game sauce. Extra temp, the assets folder is being created, the library.
Sorry, can you use GitHub to upload the project?
Yes.
And it's the same, like in every language.
Same in every, oh, you mean coding language?
No. I mean.
Spoken language.
No, I mean, how do you upload to GitHub?
You have to create a GitHub account, and then you push to your GitHub account. That creates one single, say, Unity project. And then if you're on the team, everybody's able to work on that same Unity project. Rather than sending the file back and forth, you push updates to it.
Yeah, so it's like always. You don't have to do something different.
Yeah, and everyone, like, anytime you want to check the project, it'll be, everyone will have the same version because it's living online. Now,
the same version of Unity.
It's a version of Unity?
No. I'm asking. Does everybody have to the same version of Unity?
Yes, I would recommend the same version of Unity. And 2022 is perfectly fine for what you're doing as your first year learning. And it's always very tempting to go for the absolute newest version, but it causes compatibility issues. And again, working with other people on the team and you want to send them components or assets, and then, oh, it doesn't work, so you all need to upgrade. And then you have to upgrade a project, and then it's all broken, and you have to fix it. So yeah, I recommend stay on the same page.
Yeah, I'm downloading the last one because I couldn't download the 22.
Okay.
If I have a problem, I know why.
Oh, 2 minutes. Yes.
I upload assignment 19 minutes late because it was too big. I was trying to zip and do whatever, I couldn't do it, so what I did was upload on my Google Drive,
Yeah.
and then I just upload on Moodle my report with the link to the Google Drive. That's why it's late 19 minutes.
90 minutes is...
I was rushing to finish, and then when I was uploading, like last minutes, oh, it's too big.
Yeah. You could submit the link before the thing is uploaded. A link to a Google Drive folder, and then it's
I uploaded to Google Drive, and then I put a TXT with the link to the report.
I just use the report instead of
But
the report is inside of the
I was gonna do the same
drive
thing.
as well, so everything is there.
I was gonna do the same thing with the report, but I said like I already did the report, so I said like I'm putting a TXT.
Okay, you'll see on the first page the link.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm in Unity. Fantastic. It didn't take that long. About 3 minutes altogether to open this thing up. And it's telling me, yes, there is a new version, Unity 6. I'm staying away from it. Skip new version. Thank you very much. Okay, and there you can see there's my scene. Default, it's got a camera and a light. It's got an assets folder with a scenes folder in it. But without creating or doing anything, you can already see how much files have been created for it. So again, know where this folder is, because if you need to send your project somewhere, if you need to push the project to GitHub, you need to find all of these folders. Everything in that folder needs to be up on GitHub if you want to share your project files. And it is it's just a folder hierarchy. You can see in assets. So there's assets in the project panel, more about that later. There's a folder called scenes. Go over to assets right here. There's a folder called scenes. So it is a one-to-one representation of what's happening in here, and then it's just all the background information. Okay, so we created our first Unity project. It's 3D, we've named it, we know where it is. Next we're just going to look at the layout itself. Here our window is split into a bunch of different panels. We have a hierarchy window on the left, a scene view, our toolbar, our inspector, our project window, and our camera view. So a hierarchy is just a list of everything we have in our scene. If I look back at Unity, see right now all I have is these two objects, the camera, which is this little icon right here, and a directional light. So the hierarchy there is representing everything that's in our 3D scene right now, the scene itself, just this singular scene. The project window down below is every asset we have, including scenes. So this is everything we have for our entire game. You could use each scene at a different level in your game. And then those scenes will be stored in our assets panel. So the hierarchy, all the objects that are in a specific scene. Project panel, all the assets that are in the entire project. Then game view is where we play test and preview our game. Also known as camera view because it is the view from our camera. If I switch over to game view, you'll see it's pointing at nothing at the moment, because that's what our camera is seeing. Go back to scene view and select my camera. You can see there's its view, main camera. That's our game preview mode. So, scene view, the interactive window to manipulate objects and view them from various angles. So we create and build our game worlds, our 3D maps and 3D scenes in here, provide the 3D representation of the game world. Interactive side. The game view is not the interactive side, it's the play testing side, although it is interactive. Displays the game as the player would see it. allows for real-time interaction within the game. Hierarchy window, as I've said, lists all the game objects in your scene. So any object that's living in our scene is a game object. The camera, the light, cubes, they're all different types of game objects. We can add or remove game objects from the scene by manipulating them in the hierarchy window. Hierarchy window helps you maintain the hierarchy and structure of your game objects. So we can add and remove objects or manipulate them, select them from our hierarchy panel. For example, I want to add a cube. I can right click in my hierarchy panel and click on create, game object, cube. And that's going to add a cube to my scene and drop it into my world. Hey, there it is. Beautiful cube. You can also see that now I select my camera and there's something to look at. You can see my cube. Project window, as I said, is where all of our assets live. Find all the files available for our project in here. We can drag assets directly from the project window into the scene view to add them to the scene. And the project window works like a file explorer organized between folders. We can create folders, we can create assets in here, we can apply them to our objects. So right now if I save my scene, because I can see there's a little asterisk here, which means it's unsaved. If I say file, save as, I just say scene 1 or level 1. And now you can see that scene has appeared in my assets window. And I can create folders as I see fit. Let's say I need a folder for materials. I can just right click and go to the create menu. So both of them operate the same way, the hierarchy and the project. We right click inside them, we can access the create window there. Right click, create, and then there's lots of different things that we can create. Folders, scripts, text, scenes, materials. So in the inspector window, which is on the right hand side of the screen, when we have a game object selected, we can see its properties. Configure and modify game objects by adjusting their settings in the inspector window. We'll take a look at those properties in a minute. First, we're going to look at the toolbar. So similar to the toolbar in Blender, you'll recognize a couple of these. Move, rotate, and scale are in the mix. Yeah, this is affect and modify the objects in the scene. So you can affect their movement, their rotation, their scale. And we also have a very similar little dongle widget for snapping to our different viewpoints, or it's the exact same way as in Blender. Snaps to the specific viewpoints, or you can select between orthographic and perspective projection. And then the three tools, as I said, are going to move, rotate and scale these objects. So again, working on the three handles principle, you can rotate on each individual axis by selecting the handles. And yeah, orthographic perspective. So, any object we select, I can move it around, I can rotate it, I can scale it. Then as I have this piece selected, you can see my inspector panel has changed. You can see the name of my object, its transform, position, rotation, and scale, and then the other components that are added to it to make this game object a cube. If I want to modify its position, rotation, and scale, I can use the component values up here to change it. Or if I wanted to get this back to its original scale and original rotation, I can just zero out its rotation, 0, 0, 0, and bring its scale back to 1, 1, 1. Now it's back to its original cubic shape, just by modifying these details. How are we doing? Unity installed, anybody? Okay, so navigating through our 3D space, Unity lets us navigate in two different ways. It lets us fly through the level by using our mouse and key input. So while we have right click held down, we can use the WASD keys to just fly through our level. So right now if I hold right click, actually I'll maximize this viewpoint. Hold right click, I can orbit my view around. So it's like I'm looking around the view. And you notice my cursor is changed to a little eyeball. If I hold W, I move forward. S, and I move back. Oh, the lag on this isn't great. But try it out for yourself. Holding right click, A and D. This is basically first person shooter controls. If you ever played a first person shooter on PC, WASD. And then the other way is just to hold Alt and left click to orbit the way we would, or look around. To orbit around objects, Alt and left click. basically holding that right mouse button. Use your WASD. Also use Q and E to ascend or descend, to elevate, and hold shift to move faster. The other thing is you can quickly snap your view to a specific object by double clicking it in the hierarchy or selecting the object in your scene and pressing F for find. So let's say I've got this object here, little cube, and I can't see where that other cube is, or I just want to get closer to it. Then I can just select it in my scene, press F, and it will find it. Jump right to that area. Or if I want to jump back to that other original cube, just double click on it in the hierarchy. Double click, and it jumps right back. Right back. Oh yeah. Then creating and saving scenes, the same as in any other software. Use the file save menu. You can save your project here, save your scene as, and when you're creating builds to send to people, so a version of the game that is playable on any PC without Unity, we use file build and run. Okay guys, let's take attendance before we go on to the second part of the
Which version, Seamus? Have the 2022.3.
That sounds good, yeah? So it's in the notes, and it's on Moodle, the name of it. There we go. That one.
I think it's the same. Have dot 3.
Cool. Alright, so attendance. Please take your phone out of your pocket, get your QR code scanner ready, and we're going to take the attendance in 5, 4,
3, 2,
5 seconds.
lift off.
lift off.
QR is wrong.
Oh god, not this again.
Nice one.
Wrong.
Yeah. QR code is wrong. Something is wrong.
Okay. Something happened yesterday with this as well. Okay, no, not working for anybody? Hooray!
Good mind.
Hooray! Anas! No. Aaron, you're back.
Yeah.
Raphael! I don't think I've seen him this year. Jefferson is here. Renan, I think I see. Did I see Renan? No, no Renan. Damn. Miria. Yeah. Kawe. Yep. Clayton.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, you're here. Great. Mohammed Afan Khan? Nope. Lorianne? Yep. Rayani?
Yeah.
Yep. Felipe?
Yes.
Yep. Pedro? Enrique? Yep. Mika. Mika Mello. Yeah. Rebecca. May. Vinicius. Yes. Sardar. No. Tony Grace. No. Daniel Olowodamala. Daniel. No. Pablo.
Yep.
Yeah. Bergman. Oh, Bergman's got it. Pedersen.
Here.
Yeah. Sandeep. Yeah. Carlos. No. Juan. No. Madeline. Yeah. Umesh. No. Boyvikt.
They canceled the bus. And we like 35 minutes to the next one.
Pablo, check WhatsApp. Check out the WhatsApp.
I'm trying with
No, but it wasn't coming, so I was going to the
No, que se me enfada, que no me habla. Por tu culpa.
¿En serio?
Nada, pero no.
Mándale, mándale.
A ti no te quiere ver, no le voy a enviar nada.
¿Por qué no? Ey. Solo soy un norteño haciendo burla de veracruzano. ¿Cómo se apellida ella? Lupita del Carmen Cruz o algo así. ¿Cruz?
Something about their whole system that they like so much. Who's last? The last time that I saw it, I don't know if like
You know we got. You know we got.
Yep.
When you go to the link of like install, it doesn't go to the. Do you install the hub at the same time, or it's separate?
You know we got.
The hub is separate?
Separate. You need to download it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's all about. Does that happen to you, Mika?
Yeah, it's 7 gigas. It's 7 gigas, it's too heavy. 42%. Está tomando un lobby de las versiones.
so easy actually. So easy.
No, I was joking.
Are we going to have a final project with your subject? Again.
Yeah. So your level design project is kind of pre-production for your 3D platform game I'm going to make you make. Your assignment brief should already go.
You want something?
So, project panel. It is just a management space, therefore organizing our assets into folders, and creating different types of assets depending on our needs. A folder for scenes, a folder for scripts. If we need a material to change the color of an object, we create it inside of that project panel. Like so. If I wanted to make this a red box, right click create, material. Yep.
You just skip that.
Do you need the... Nothing, sorry.
You did that only skip.
Happy to help. Anyway, I created a material, and you'll see it appears in my project panel. It's called new material. I'll call it red. And then you can see there's a color swatch up here. That's going to say what the color is. I'll make it red. And then to apply it to the object in my scene, it's simply drag and drop onto the object you wanted. I want that object to have a red material in the material slot. I'll drag it on there. It's red. If I select the cube now, I can see the property has changed. It has a material red. And in its mesh renderer component, it has my material. If I minus that away, it's not going to be red anymore. Whoops. And back, it is red. So no material, invisible. Similarly, I want to make this other cube blue. I can just duplicate this material. Control D. And now I have red 1. I'll rename it blue.
How do you rename it?
Same way you'd rename a folder in Windows. You know, you kind of click on the name.
Yeah, but
With a little bit of knack. And then again, I can just drag and drop that blue color onto my 3D model. Red cube, blue cube.
It seems simpler than Blender.
A little bit.
but you can do less things, right?
How so?
What's the difference between Blender and Unity?
Unity is a proper game engine. Blender is more a design tool. Yeah, there is stuff you can do in Blender that you can't do in Unity. More like rigging animations and rendering. It's different rendering engine.
Which one is best?
Oh, they're both different tools.
Because one is for game.
I wouldn't make a game in Blender, even though I
Just
can.
the design.
Yeah.
And
more
you can
design.
use the same design that you create in Blender in Unity.
Yeah. Exactly. So everything we've created, our level design stuff, we can use in Unity now.
But we can create in Unity too, right?
Of course, yeah. Look, I made a box.
That looks like a box of water.
It is. It's a box of water from Minecraft. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, you can make folders for materials, or folders to organize your assets. I've got two assets that are materials. I'll just drag them into the folder right here. Yeah, it's just like using Windows or Mac. It's a file browser system, so pretty easy to figure out. And I've got a scene there as well, LVL1. I'll just drag that into the scenes folder. All is well. Organize my assets. Okay, so what separates our game objects from other types of objects and other types of software is that we can add components to do them. So all game objects have components, by default one component. So to add a component to a game object, first we select that object. It can be a cube, it can be a camera, anything in your scene. Select it in the hierarchy panel. In the inspector panel at the bottom, we can select add a component and select the component you want from the drop down list. Materials, we've kind of already run through it. There's two ways of doing it. We can create a material or right click in the project panel and create, and then just apply it by dragging and dropping. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Halfway through a class and just, yeah, let's get out in the nature. What are we doing in here? So, the other thing we talked about is that Unity can simulate real-world physics using rigid body physics, allowing game objects to act under the control of physics, enabling realistic movements and interactions. The rigid bodies enable realistic collisions, varied types of joints, and other cool behaviors, enhancing the overall gameplay experience. So, objects collide and interact with each other. They bounce and fall under the weight of real-world gravity. So, minus 9.87 meters per second is the speed of gravity, inverse speed of gravity, and that is the gravity scale that's applied to objects in Unity. Angry Birds is a perfect example. Yeah, we can use physics to create different kinds of joints, as I said. So this is some kind of chain link joint, probably a spring joint or hinge joint. You can see the little character falling off. So before rigid bodies can work, or before physics can work under the act of Unity system, we need to add them as components. This is why I went through that very brief adding a component to a game object. So we want a cube or a sphere or a ball to fall under physics. We need to add a rigid body component to that object. So once we add it, then the object is physics ready. It'll fall under gravity and can receive forces via scripting. So we can apply physical forces to make things move around. Do you remember in the, I think it was the first class, we looked at that rolling marble game and things was rolling around? That was being controlled through physics rigid body forces. When I pressed forward on the keyboard, it was applying force in the forward direction of the ball. In order to test our physics forces, we need to enter play mode. Allows us to preview and test our game. So all scripts start running, all physics simulations start. So you see this little play indicator at the top of your scene view. This is how we start or stop our game simulation. So when it's on, the game simulation starts, the physics engine is activated. All scripts are executed. Now we can start play testing. When it's turned off, the simulation stops and any changes made during play mode are reset. So play mode is switched on or it's switched off by pressing this play button. While you're in play mode, you can make changes, you can make tests, you can start arranging or creating things, you can change your forces in your world, you can change your character controller's jumping ability or jumping force, just to test how things are working. And then you go back to play mode and everything reverts back to when you started. We can also pause the simulation at any point. You can step forward through it frame by frame to see what's happening, frame by frame. It's all about debugging and figuring out if something crazy is happening, you're trying to figure out what's happening in that exact instance when this error starts. We can pause the simulation and take a look at it. You see here he's entered play mode, he's made a move, he's left play mode, and the cube has gone back to its original position. So any changes made in play mode will revert back. So, putting that into practice, I've got a cube right here. A red cube, and I want this to fall under physics forces, so I need to add a component. What component do I need?
Physics.
No.
Gravity.
No. Air. That's an interesting one. No. What is the name of the component? You're right with gravity, but it's not the name, it's not what I've just been saying in these slides. What component could I possibly need? Whoa, how did you get that answer? Correct. 20 points. Yes. In order for an object to fall with physics, it needs a specific component called a rigid body. We're making a 2D game, it needs rigid body. 2D, 3D game, it's just called rigid body. So if I want this cube to fall under gravity, I need to go down to add component. So it's already got a couple of components by default, the transform, the cube mesh filter, and the mesh renderer. So that's saying what the shape is, and that's rendering it to the camera. So that's where we have our materials. The other one we have is our box collider, saying how this object is going to collide in the physical world. If I turn off my mesh render, I can see there's this green shape. That is the collider. So that is the physical surface, what will collide with things. Go down to add component, and I need to look for a rigid body. I can use the search function, rigid, and just find it. Rigid. Or I can go down to the physics part and find it in there. So under physics, you'll find a rigid body as well as colliders and things like the joints. As in those spring joints, there's a chain that was falling. That's a physics thing, hinge joint, fixed joint, that kind of stuff. But what we want is a rigid body. Now you can see the added component on the end. It has mass, drag, so how much the air slows down its movement, angular drag, how much rotation slows it down, if it's using gravity or not, and then collision detection. And if I press play right now and start the simulation, what's going to happen?
Fall.
It will fall. It will fall and fall, fall, fall. There it goes. Bye.
And where is going?
To the end of the
Away.
To the center.
Wave goodbye.
In the center of the world.
We can keep an eye on it. We can look at its position here in the inspector. You see its Y value is minusing the whole time. It's at minus 1158, and it's going to keep dropping at the speed of gravity. So it's just going to keep falling and falling and falling.
Do you need a good computer to run Unity?
Pretty decent one, yeah. Definitely more processor and hardware intensive than Blender. Yeah. So, in order to make this a little bit more fun, we can add a ground plane to catch our objects so they don't fall forever and ever. Right click, 3D object, plane. Hey, I've got a ground. I'll call this Rigibox. So now I can start doing stuff like duplicating this original shape, experimenting with physics. Control D. I show which again? The ground. Yeah, no problem. So, same way we create any game object. Well, actually, there's different ways of doing things. We can go up to the game object menu and say 3D object plane, which is a ground plane, which is the same as right-clicking in here and finding the 3D object create menu. So these objects by default will have colliders attached to them. The cube will have a box collider, so they will collide with physics objects. The plane will have a flat plane collider, so it will catch objects. So there's my plane. I can even name it ground. I can go ahead and duplicate this box a few times. Control D. And you notice it doesn't do the Blender way where it's in a move mode, it just puts it one on top of the other. And we can do some more duplication. Control D. Control D.
It's
Once I press play, those are going to fall. Oh wait, wrong boxes. I put everything in the wrong place. Alright, that's fine.
Chambers, did you change the rigid body?
Nope.
No.
wow.
There it is.
I think Ubisoft would be calling me.
Okay, so there's my object. I didn't actually add the rigid body to those blue cubes, so they didn't fall. But it is worth pointing out that while I'm in play mode's still on, I can jump back to my scene view and start messing around with things. So if I pick up this cube, it's going to fall under physics. And I can duplicate this cube inside here and just start playing with 3D shapes. And then the second I leave play mode, all of these extra red cubes are going to disappear. This is just temporary for testing. Yeah, so let me add to these blue boxes, I'm going to add some rigid bodies. I can just select them all at the same time because they're all the same type of object and add the rigid body to it.
What is the rigid body 2D?
It's the exact same type component, a gravity component, but for 2D like sprites.
But this is 3D, right?
This is 3D.
And what's happening if you press in 2D?
You mean this button up here?
No, you have the option of rigid body 2D.
Yes, you can only add it to 2D objects. So like image sprites,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll create it as flat.
Okay, but if you add now that you are doing 3D,
Yeah,
it's the same?
no, it won't work.
Okay.
It won't work with 3D objects. Basically, it's two different collision systems because 3D is like 3D collision, all in 3D, and 2D is just going on the X and Y. So it's flat land. So it's colliding
Yeah,
that way. So it's different collision systems. You can blend them together and make a 2.5D thing. You did that before, like a platform game where it's 2D character, 3D world, but yeah, requires a little bit of work. Anyway, I've added a rigid body to all of these. I press play. They should all fall. Perfect, they fall. I can jump back into the scene view. I can start manipulating this. I can pause and maybe build a structure. Let's say I just want to add something onto this wall. I'll duplicate, I'll bring it up. And then I can unpause and have the simulation come back. Oh, and nothing fell over. Interesting. I'll just pull this one out. We could make a game of Jenga. So you can play some Jenga right now. Just make all the blocks. Whoa.
No.
Oh, see, it still hasn't fallen. Pretty sturdy stuff.
No.
Oh, it's all over. It's all over.
I have this question in the project.
Yep.
In the project. For example, if you are creating a lot of items, like right now, like now, do you recommend create different folders? For example, there you put the boxes after the cubes, or everything in the same folder.
Well, you don't need a folder for the cubes, but no, not everything in the same folder. So I probably, if we're talking about the assets, I split between audio, scripts, scenes, materials, models. If there's any art assets you're using, yeah, it's probably best to put folders in there.
But if you have a lot of models, all the models in the same
Models
folder,
in the folder.
like right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this isn't a folder. This is like our scene view. These are all just cubes. They're like white box and cubes.
Yeah, but for example, if you create cylinders, boxes, cubes, have to be all in the same folder.
It's a good idea.
The
It's a
same
good
folder.
idea. Yeah,
Okay.
just for ease of organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had like hundreds of items in the same folder, and it was
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. No, it gets a bit confusing. They're hard to read. What is the one odd one out here?
Actually, I have a deal with communication. It was really interesting. You actually get money out of it. Create something. Yesterday I went to a meeting and I had a group of 15. Formal, but I can tell you CD,
Okay. And last thing about rigid bodies before I give you a little task to work on. If they all have the same rigid body and the same construction, you can modify all at the same time. So mass obviously is going to make things heavier, makes them harder to move. If we turn off use gravity, it doesn't turn off rigid body physics. It's still in the physics world. It's just like we're in outer space. There's no gravity. So I turn off gravity on all of these at the same time. So all of these are not using gravity.
I just select all the objects.
Hierarchy. So you can either use your hierarchy and just select.
No, but there's a shortcut, right?
Yeah, there is. It's called doing this.
Okay.
So drag your box around it, or drag your just shift select. Oh yeah, Control A, standard. Anyway, so as you can see, these are moving without gravity, but they still have mass. If I shove one of these away, oh, maybe I can shove them all into space. There's a little switch called Use Gravity. Turn it off. And now these are no longer using gravity, but they have mass and weight. They can carry momentum. So red ones still have gravity, blue ones don't. And you can have some fun with that mechanically.
Jim,
Yes.
you want to look around and not
Yeah.
you know, what is there a shortcut?
Oh. To maximize the view, little three dots.
Yeah, I'm not getting because I cancel.
Oh, you're in game view. So you can switch over to the other tab
Sí.
Yeah,
while in play mode. Okay, so there's your first tester task, building a tower rigid body objects, just a test of Jenga's strength.